Hi there and welcome to Lasso Create. My name is Rebecca and in today's tutorial I will be showing you how to make these clear bins because if you're a sewist or a crafter or even an artist, you know how quickly you can gather supplies and all of a sudden they're all disorganized. So in this tutorial I'm going to show you how you can make these, whip these up really quickly, not using a whole lot of supplies and getting your space organized. Now in these clear bins, not only can you see through them really well, but you can make them in a variety of sizes to fit things like fabrics or clips, all kinds of things really. Now, there are two different ways that I have created these. One, you can actually flip the top down and make sort of a casing around it to weave in some ribbon, like I did in this one. Or you can actually build the little slots in the clear vinyl to hold the ribbon up. So if this is your first attempt at working with clear vinyl, it's pretty quick, doesn't require a lot of vinyl, so you don't have to worry about messing it up too much. So it is a good beginner project. It's just straight lines. Let's get started. So the first thing I need to do is remove some of these wrinkles from the clear vinyl, and the way I have found helpful is to pass a hot iron over the ironing board. Then laying the vinyl down and using my hands to smooth it. Alternatively, you could also use a hairdryer and warm the vinyl up. And I'm not afraid of stretching this vinyl because it's rather thick. It's a thicker gauge. I just bought this at, I think it was Wal-Mart, and it's the type that you would use to cover furnishings. Working with clear vinyl can be challenging. What I like to do is take the larger piece of vinyl and just approximate the cut, and then I'm going to take it back to the ironing board, smooth it out some more. That way I can do a precision cut. For this container that I made, I cut the piece 16 by 16. And I used a 5-inch square boxing, and it yielded a container that has a 5-inch bottom square, and the height is 6 inches. Now I'm going to do another one, but instead of using the 16 by 16, I'm going to do a 14 by 14, so slightly smaller. Once you know how to do it, you can make them in all shapes. So I made this one to just hold the zippers, so that they stay kind of corralled in the drawer. And this one holds zippers that are anywhere from 6 inches to, let's see what I have in here. I have up to a 14-inch zipper because they're all the same. So they're folded over. And the dimensions that I used for this one was a 16-inch by 7-inch. Piece of vinyl. I used a 1/4-inch seam allowance, and I did a 2-inch boxing. And I thought this would also be cool to hold tea bags too, for any of you out there that are tea drinkers. So what I found helpful is if you could use a friction pen and mark your points. And so I'm going to place this at the 3.5 by 3.5 marking. And I messed up. I went 1, 2, 3, 4. I guess we're making it a 4-inch square. 1, 2, 3, because I messed it all up. I find it's actually easier when you double it up. It doesn't seem to slither around as much. Okay, so when you're finished, you open it up and you have what looks like a plus. So next you're going to take 2 of the adjacent sides and pair it together, and you can clip it. Now to clip it, I like using these smooth hair clips because they don't have like too much of a tooth that will grip. Or you could use these, but you can see they kind of have little teeth in them. If you're concerned that the clip will make divots in your vinyl, you can take some of your scrap pieces of vinyl cut them and just use them to protect your other vinyl while you're clipping them, like so. That way the divot will mess up the top piece of vinyl. So let me show you. There. And so you're going to take it to the sewing machine and sew at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So to make the process smoother, you'll want to have a Teflon foot, or your regular foot. You can put a little piece of Scotch tape around it to make it glide over your vinyl. And then also to line the bed of the sewing machine, you can use tissue paper. That way the vinyl doesn't come in contact with a metal plate and then it starts sticking. You'll keep this underneath as you're sewing along, and that'll help your vinyl glide. So let's go to the sewing machine. You're going to also lengthen your stitch length to a 3.5, 4-ish, because you don't want a lot of frequent punctures, because that will weaken the seam. So you want the punching of the needle to be a little bit further apart to protect the integrity of the vinyl. So I like sewing from the center point to the exterior edges. That way if there's any shifting, it won't cause any buckling. It'll be okay. Here's where the angle is, so I'm going to start a little bit further behind, say about there, with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Back stitching as well. I'm sewing with nylon thread. You're going to go back through and repeat the process for all of your sides. So you see the backwards L. I'm going to unfold it, fold it this way so your raw edges are pointing out. You're right when you say, when you wonder why the raw edges are pointing out, you're right. It's almost like you don't have to clip it because it sticks together. And it's very important when you're working with clear vinyl to trim your pieces, because your tails, because you see them. And because I'm using vinyl, I can actually also burn the ends with a lighter. You don't have to use nylon thread. That's what I just keep on my sewing machine pretty much. Just don't linger there too long, or you'll melt your vinyl. Okay, so one side left. To close this, box it in. It's sticking, so just putting that closer. So next, I'm going to trim this down. And so you want to make sure that all your sides are moved out. And you can use scissors, or you can use a rotary cutter, whatever is easiest for you. Just try not to go through your seam. I'm kind of doing this at an awkward angle so you can kind of see, but just go through like so. So at this point, I'm going to take the hairdryer and warm it up, and then turn it right side out. And you're just wanting it to be soft so that it makes it easier to turn. And you just want to gently push out your corners. You can use your finger or gently use a point turner. Gently, especially after you've warmed it up, because it will stretch out. This reminds me of the sock organizers that you put in drawers too. Okay, so next you're going to take it while it's good and soft, and you're going to take it back to the sewing machine, and this time you're going to sew at 1/4 inch. That way you're catching the raw edge, and that's what's called a French seam, and it'll also provide a little bit of rigidity. If you get the tissue paper caught, no big deal. You can remove that. Oh, Samsonite, it's okay, baby. It's just another puppy going for a walk. I know. You'll go later. Don't you worry. So, this one was 16 by 16. This one is 14 by 14 with a 4-inch square boxing. So it's a little bit shorter than this one. And you can adjust it to however you want. Now, with this one, I decorated it with a ribbon. And so what I did was I took an X-Acto knife and I put the 2 seams together like so, and I lined it up on the grid ruler and decided where I wanted to make the slits for the ribbon. So that's one way of doing it, so that the ribbon stays put. Now another option I did here. Okay, so for this one, I'm going to actually show you how I flipped down a casing for the ribbon, and the sample I'm going to show you is on one that I'm making a bit smaller, and I'm going to make it for the clips. And I started with a 12 by 12 inch square of the clear vinyl, and then I boxed out 4-inch squares from the corners. So that's where I've started. That's what I have. Now today I'm going to be using this ribbon. You could use twine, you could use canvas, whatever you would like to make it more decorative. So the ribbon I'm using today is 5/8 of an inch, and let me bring you in and show you the steps involved. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it down by 1 inch. So at the 1 inch mark, I'm just using like a friction pen. So I can kind of see it's kind of etched in, but I'm going to just flip it down. And you just want to make sure that the size of your binding is going to fit and allow you to still be able to sew the casing. I'm going to go with a 1 inch down. You can use a piece of fabric to sort of protect where you have the clover clip, like so. This will still allow you to be able to sew across, and so you'll sew across 1/8 of an inch up from the edge, and you'll repeat it for all 4 sides. So using a Teflon foot, I'm going to go ahead and sew across. Now on the smaller ones, I don't do the French seam like I do on the bigger ones, just because there's just not as much room for it. So when I go to put the sides together, make sure that the seam is on the outside for the ribbon. And so then I will proceed and follow the same method as working with the other ones. I just start stitching at right where that seam line is, back stitch, and sew down the side. So I'm just using the side of the Teflon foot, which is about 1/4 of an inch, I would say, seam allowance. Trimming as I go, because it kind of gets tricky to trim the threads after it's all assembled. So I've done that side, so I'll do this side. Okay, so let's go back to the work table and start threading the ribbon through it. You can also use tweezers or a bodkin to get in there if you need to. Boy, I feel like I'm doing some sort of surgery. Alright, so I'm going to do that all the way around. You needn't watch me do this all the way around. If it's been squished down, then you can fix that. Just make yourself low. There. It's a better size for those. And so that ribbon will stay put, and you'll be able to see your goodies in there. Keep working on that bow, don't I? Anyway.